It was his first time in Death Valley under the lights for a big game. Coach Burrow, what'd you think about the place?
Well, it was unbelievable, awesome experience for me and my family. As I said last week, that was my first big-time SEC game in Tiger Stadium, and it lived up to its hype. It was awesome.
The entire day, huh? I mean, tell me about the entire day, going tailgate and getting into the game, because I was a part of it, and it just seemed like I got out there early Saturday morning at about 7 o'clock, and you could not get away from the feeling that there was a big game on the horizon.
Yeah, of course, as I said, never seen anything like that. We got to our tailgate probably about 11 o'clock after fighting the traffic, and we had people from I coached. Joe was born in Ames, Iowa, and we had people from Ames, we had people from Nebraska, we had people from Ohio, we had people from Texas, and just friends and family from really all over. And so we started early. We had some gator bites that we had purchased, and so everybody loved those. Most everybody had them for the first time, but it was a lot of fun. And then we actually hooked up there a little after the game also.
What do you think about the gator?
It was good. I mean, it was small bites from I guess I can say this, walk-ons. And,
yeah. Good friends of the show. Good friends of the show.
Yep, we're good. We're good.
We had
good looking out though, Jimmy. Thank you.
We had some sauce, and it was great. They didn't last long. We had 2 pans full, and it must have been good because it didn't last very long.
So I know you started the weekend, speaking to our good friends over at the Gridiron Club over there in Drusilla Seafood. That's a good group over there.
Yeah, it was great to be able to sit beside Burt Jones and visit with him. Really a legend at not only LSU but with the Baltimore Colts.
Nice.
I had my idol growing up was Johnny Unitas, and so I followed the Colts. And then I had a former teammate that played with Burt Jones, John Dutton, played with him at Baltimore. So we had some things in common, and just to be there and respect the legend. And he's a great speaker, too, and a comedian, by the way, up there. So it was all good. Tough act to follow when I got up there.
Hey, so was it Burt Jones and Jamarcus Russell who had also won 3 SEC Players of the Week? Well, Jimmy, Joe just won his 4th SEC Player of the Week in 6 opportunities. 2/3 of the time when he takes the field, nobody's better offensively in the SEC. It seems like every week the bar just continues to get raised, smashing through the glass ceiling. As a father, like what's your emotions just going through this ride?
Well, just when an individual gets recognized, especially the quarterback, really the whole team, the whole offense is getting recognized. He gets a lot of the credit. Quarterbacks always do a lot of the blame if it goes wrong, but he'd be the first to tell you that award speaks for itself when he gets one, because the offensive line was unbelievable.
Yeah.
Receivers, running backs, really that was probably even though the passing numbers weren't what maybe they were in some of the other games, it probably was the most balanced attack that they've had all year, and I think that's what you really shoot for. You don't want to have to just throw the ball every down, nor run the ball every down. And that was a great mixture and a great show on the offense. And they did a good job as a staff, too, organizing that game plan.
Coach Jimmy Burrow joining us here every Tuesday morning on Off the Bench, ESPN Baton Rouge, New Orleans, and Alexandria. Last Tuesday we talked to you about the upcoming Florida game, and you talked about watching that Florida-Auburn game with Joe. What were some of the things that you guys saw from a coaching aspect? You guys talked about watching that game together and seeing some things from that Florida defense that was so very well respected within the sport coming into Baton Rouge on Saturday night. Where did you think that Joe could have the success like he did going into it?
Well, he was confident all week. I mentioned to some my other sons that he was the most confident that really I'd ever seen him. So he had seen things that he thought they could exploit. He thought they'd be quite a bit man-to-man coverage, and with the receivers we have and the protection. I mean, playing man-to-man against the Tigers is a tough chore, and I think he had good feeling about that. Just watching them that night. We talked a little about protecting the ball, and he knew that they were going to move the ball. He knew also they had 26 sacks and all those interceptions. So basically, we just talked about making sure you don't turn the ball over and protect the ball when you're scrambling and those type things. And he did a good job of that.
We're talking to Jimmy Burrow, longtime defensive mind, former NFL player, coach, a little bit of everything. Joe Burrow's father. We have an anonymous user in the huddle, Jimmy, and he says, I'm on delay, but I'm curious about Jimmy's thoughts on the LSU defensive performance on Saturday. If you could put on your D coordinator hat.
Well, Florida is really good on offense. I think people across the country may have underestimated really the dynamics of that group and the personnel they have, but because the defense had overshadowed it. It's never going to be easy for a defensive coordinator and a defense when you go up against people like that. So I think that Miranda did a good job of making adjustments and getting pressure on the quarterback. But nowadays when you can go to the line of scrimmage and you can check and the people in the press box are looking at and then telling the quarterback, giving him some options according to what they see. It's just not easy. It's very difficult to play defense in this day and age, and sometimes it takes a half to really zero in on what you do. You have a game plan, but you have to be able to go to other options, and I think the staff there did a great job of finding ways to make stops and create pressure, and I figured they would. I knew they would, but as I said, the defense these days are really put in a bad situation with the way the spread offenses are operating.
Coach, one more defensive one here. What would you have done for a player like Derek Stingley Jr.?
Well, I think they went after him early, and maybe you do because he's a freshman, and they had some success, and then you get a little overconfident, and you continue to go, and then make,
keep going to the well.
the biggest play in the game. So I think you got to pick your spots, but then you look at the other people back there, and maybe they thought he was the best option with all the other great players back there. And as I said, they have great personnel, and I knew that going in. But as I said, most of the hype was with the defense, but they do a great job. I think with game plan on offense. I mean, I've followed Dan Mullen for a long time, and he knows what he's doing over there. I mean, he's an offensive mind, I believe, that really knows how to attack a defense.
Coach, here's what Joe said about this week's upcoming opponent yesterday.
Well, my dad grew up a Mississippi State fan, so I had a little cowbell in my room growing up.
This one more special for the Burrows?
Yes, I'm actually here in Amory all week. I drove from Baton Rouge on Sunday. My dad played some golf, and I'm a guest at the Rotary Club here on Thursday.
Nice.
Of course, there's probably 50-50 Mississippi State fans and Ole Miss fans, and we had a divided house at one time. My dad did play basketball at Mississippi State. I actually went to Ole Miss my freshman year. My brother Johnny played at Ole Miss. He was the same era as John Forcade.
Wow.
Which I believe you guys know.
Absolutely.
So everybody in this town is excited. Maybe not so much about Mississippi State and Ole Miss this season, but they're excited that Joe Burrow has family in Amory. So it's a good thing. I'm excited to be here.
Coach, the
Burrow clan is so strong.
So
Athens,
cool to
Amory.
watch this, man. To see the crew from Athens get down to Nashville, to see the ties that you have down in the Southeastern Conference with the family, to get the crew down here for a big Saturday night. I mean, this ride has been really cool to just sit back and watch. I can't imagine what it's been like on the inside for the Burrows, how cool it's been.
Yeah, I was outside Tiger Stadium in one of the earlier games, and somebody came up to us and introduced themselves. They were just fans of Joe from Ohio. I can't even remember where they were from. They weren't from Athens. We didn't know them, but they followed Joe since high school, and they wanted to see him play at Tiger Stadium. So the support we've got from friends and just people across the country. I mean, I get texts from people that I either coached or played with, teammates. I had a text late Saturday night from Mark Rippon, who I coached at Washington State, great quarterback for the Washington Redskins.
Super Bowl MVP.
Talked about how well Joe was playing. I've had texts from Kurt Warner, who I worked with at the Iowa Barnstormers. So just to hear from people like that and other friends and former teammates is really a blessing to me and the rest of my family.
Joe, I'm going to have to get through your contact list.
Yeah, I'm about to say, don't let Jordy know you got Kurt Warner's cell phone number sneaking around there, Jimmy.
Yeah, hold tight after this.
I can name a lot more, too, but I'm not.
Oh, really?
I was talking about old man last night about Joe. I mean, and that's a guy, I mean, obviously Ogeron compared him to Bobby Hebert in the past. My old man was just blown away by his intangibles, the toughness.
Real quick, Coach, his message to the team after the game. He said, don't settle on good. Be great.
He was like, don't let good get in the way of greatness.
Greatness.
Which is, awesome.
Ogeron kind of said that he stood up and addressed the room. Do you get the feeling that Burrow believes this team has got it and can win this thing, win the entire thing?
He told me last spring that they were really going to be good, and I think a lot of people still had questions back then, but he's been confident since they started the off season last year in spring ball. I've mentioned before, and I'm sure Joe has. He went to LSU believing that he would have a chance to win the national championship, and that's his goal. That's his team's goal, Coach Ogeron's goal, and he believes it, and I think that his teammates believe it, and they all really believe in each other, and that's the way you can accomplish really any goal. So it was great to hear that what he said. I hadn't heard him say that before, but I learned a lot about him from listening to media and you guys and articles too. So I read them to see what else I could learn about Joe Burrow.
Enjoy the week, Mr. Burrow. Enjoy the week back home. Thank you for the time this morning, as always.
All right, go Tigers.
Yes, sir.
How about this? The franchise TD on Twitter. It's not the X's and O's. It's the Jimmys and Joes. Dad. That's not a bad time.